welcome back to the Ninth House channel. I'm your host Victor, and this video will be about my beef with organized religion. Oh boy, 2 videos in one day. I'm not sure when I'm uploading this, but I have recorded another video, which is my beef with YouTube, and this video, my beef with organized religion, in the same day. So maybe I will upload it in the same day, maybe I'm not. I don't know. But getting back to the topic, my beef with organized religion. Alright, so to give you a little background about myself, I grew up in an organized religion. I'm not gonna say what it is. I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus. But overall, in my experience, is, at least for me, I grew up and I had a different mentality. I possessed a mentality of a very closeness with God, at least in my belief, at least in my imagination. I always felt or feel as if that there is something higher in this universe, something, a power that cannot be seen, felt, touched, or even tasted, a being that can only be felt. And I've always felt that way throughout my life. But going to church every week will get you to believe, or at least got me to believe, that this being is someone who judges you based off your deeds, based off you going to church every week and doing what the pastor told you to do. Pastor or the leader or another human being that's telling you, alright, this is the rules of God. And I kind of grew up with this mentality. I had a pastor, or had a pastor, whatever, who would say, if you don't go to church, then you're not doing God justice. You're not treating God right. If you don't wear a suit to church and you have your tie and all that stuff, you're not treating God right. You aren't doing all the things that the church listed as the things you must do, then you aren't doing as God wants you or commanded you to. And so growing up, me being probably 9, 10, 11, 12, that hurt me. That hurt me because I believe, like, for me, God was like, that type of God was like Santa Claus. Had human emotions, and I didn't want to hurt this God's feelings. I didn't want this God to be mad at me. So I tried to, go about doing exactly as, I was instructed to do by, you guessed it, another man. So a pastor, a man who doesn't even know God himself, yet tells me what God wants me to do. That's the mentality that I had at the time. But of course, later on, my mom changed my mentality when she started to question religion, and she started to say, talked about a lot of the things that the religion, wasn't doing right in accordance to spirituality. So she became more spiritual. She looked up to people like Sylvia Brown, and some other people who really provoked her to research and look into spirituality, which in turn made me want to research spirituality for myself. And ever since then, ever since 11th and 12th grade, I became a lot different. Where I was once really religious to the point where I would consider myself a martyr, I would die for my religion, to now I'm more spiritual and not religious at all. If I go to church you know, as a means to support, but not necessarily am I bonded by it. You know, if I don't want to go to church, I'm not going to go to church. It's as simple as that. I try to support, but nothing you can say to me at this point can convince me to believe that your religion is the right religion. So, getting back to the topic, after that little background, you know, so you have an idea of where I'm coming from. Here's my beef with organized religion. And I have it written down, so if you see me looking down on the ground, I'm kind of looking at my notes. Maybe I shouldn't say that, maybe I should edit this part out, but I'm just being real with you, alright? So, my beef with organized religion, alright? And one of the things that I have, number one, is expectations, alright? Too many people in church have expectations for other members of the church. They expect you to come out and keep coming out. They expect you to, I don't want to say donate, but they have to, you know, to pay your offerings, you know, to the church. In other words, a membership fee for being a part of the church. And they expect you to, I heard about this one church that literally locked the doors because the members didn't pay them enough. You know, expectations. How are you going to be of God, but yet you have expectations on how man should operate and how man should be in the house of God? You know, that's one of my gripes with organized religions, is that you can't have expectations. They expect you to come out every week to the point where they're dependent on their members. And if you ask me, God is not dependent on anyone. Okay? God doesn't care if you come to church every week. God doesn't care if you give your money to the church. You know, He doesn't care about it. Doesn't care about any of that. God is a force in the universe that men cannot articulate, even if they tried. You cannot understand God, nor can you comprehend God to the point where you can dictate whether someone's doing as God says or whether they're not doing as God says. You know, that's one of my gripes with the church. Number two is ancestry worship. Alright? So when you go to church, oftentimes they say that we come to worship God. But oftentimes, and too often, they come to worship their ancestors. In my experience, with my church, they always go back to the old saints, what the old saints did. Back in my day, we used to do this. We used to stay in church from sunrise to sunset. And even then, you know, we still worship God throughout the night. You know, some nonsense like that. And they will say, oh, back in my day, my parents, they gave up all their money to church, and they didn't even know where their money was coming from. But God provided for them. Back in my day, if you didn't do this in church, you would get a whooping. Back in my day, if you didn't do this, if you didn't do that, if you didn't do this, then this would happen to you. You should have done this. You were expected to do this. In other words, ancestry worship. Alright? It's what they were taught to believe without question. Alright? They was brought up in that church, and they were beaten to the point where they were forced to believe this, and they didn't find God for themselves. Instead, they were taught to believe this God for themselves. And now, without them knowing what God is for themselves, they try to teach their children or the new members that's coming in, what God is according to their ancestors, according to their father, their mother, their grandfather, their grandmother, their aunts, their uncles, their great aunts and great uncles and cousins and brothers and sisters. But no one really knows God for themselves. But yet everyone can tell you what to know about God, which is incorrect in my opinion. And that's another one of my gripes with organized religion. Alright? Number 3. They use God as a commodity. Organized religion, oftentimes, if you were to look at especially the extremists, it doesn't matter what religion you come from, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Jew or Jewish, or whether you're one of the other hundreds of religions out there. There's always these extremists, and oftentimes they use God for their own gain, right? So they'll tell you to come to church. If you don't come to church, you're gonna go to hell. The extremists will go as far as harming someone else in the name of God. They use God almost like a product. And as my mom once said, almost, and I don't want to use this language, when describing it, but in the sense that this is true, but literally a lot of times these churches pimp God for money. They pimp God, like I said, for their gain. Overall, it's not really what God is about. So that's one of my gripes with organized religion, is that they use God as a commodity, like a product. That my God is better than your God. You don't know what God is, so come to my church and we're going to teach you about God that we don't even know. And even though you come to church, our church, and we quote unquote teach you about God, we're not really saying anything. We're just going to give you some motivation, so you can survive another week and come back to church next week after this, and then come back to church the week after that, without really getting any benefits from it. It's more like a club. You come to church, we're gonna make you feel good, give you some gospel, but it's not really fixing your life. It's not telling you the hard truth. Like if you're sick, we're not gonna tell you to eat healthy. We're just gonna say we're gonna pray for you. If you come to church and you're sick in the mind, we're gonna pray for you. We're not gonna tell you any remedies or any cure, because we don't even know any remedies or any cure. Our ancestors never taught us that. So oftentimes what they give you is something that is not even beneficial for your life. I could get more information, greater information from YouTube just sitting at home than I do from coming out to church. So that's another issue that I have with organized religion. There's plenty of issues, but these are the issues that come to my mind. And the last one, number 4, is social club. To me, I don't know about you, but it's almost like a social club going out to these churches. Too often, they're not going to take just anyone. They'll prefer those who are economically, independent. You can't be a homeless person going to church, or you're going to be looked down on. You're going to be frowned upon. They're not going to really want your company. I read about this story one time where this homeless man did not have access to church, and so the ushers ushered them away from the church and then say, no, you can't come in here. And he says, why? And the usher says, because you're homeless. You look bad, you smell bad, you can't come into the house of God this way. And he walked away, and someone else came behind him. He was also rejected. And he found the homeless man on the side and says, why were you rejected? He says, because of, my economic status. I'm homeless, I don't have the right clothes on, and I smell bad, according to the usher. And then he asked him what his name was. He says, Jesus. Now I know this is just a story, and this is a quote-unquote parable. But ultimately, that's kind of like how I see churches. You go to church for a social club. It's no different than just a regular club to meet your friends, go out and dance, have a good time on the floor, on the dance floor. But no one really is trying to go out there and help the broken. No one is out there on the streets and helping the homeless people out there because they genuinely want to help people, want to heal people. And when the people come into church broken, when the people come into church in disarray, they have nothing to offer them. Instead, they want people who can offer the church something rather than the church offering you something, which I feel as if that's what God is all about, caring and sharing. There was a parable that talked about the characteristics of God, in a sense, by and I had mentioned this one time in one of my other videos, the parable of heaven and hell. So if you want to know more about that parable, you should check that out. But pretty much, it talks about the difference between heaven and hell. Hell is filled with people who are all about themselves. They want to do everything they do is for their own personal gain, to the point where no one gets anywhere. No one is able to feed themselves because of the situation. Everyone is out to get for themselves. So it's like a hellish environment. It's the ego that's just throwing that perception of reality, which creates hell. Versus heaven, where everyone's out to love each other, to share with each other, and to help each other grow. And so, if your church is not about that, as many organized religions aren't, then are you really about God? Because, at least in my personal opinion, I feel as if God is love. God is sharing and caring. And if your church isn't about that, is it really a church of God? So, ladies and gentlemen, YouTube viewers viewing my channel, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and subscribe, as I will have plenty more content for the future. And I need to hurry up and finish this because my camera is about to die in about 4 seconds. So once again, my name is Victor. This is the Ninth House channel. Thank you for tuning in.